Today's episode is sponsored by absolutely nobody. But what I do want to do is point you in the direction of Always Away Days. Make sure you go and follow them over on their socials. If you need an away day experience for the Revolution, that's where I would head.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
NERevs UK, all things Revolution from a UK perspective.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the NERevs UK Show, all things Revolution from a UK perspective. And yes, I know it has been a while. The crazy thing is I actually had an episode partly recorded, episode 5, quite a while back, but I never actually got around to doing part 2 of it, and it kind of ended quite abruptly from the, I basically was recording the episode, then something happened and I had kind of had to go away, and I thought, I'll come back and get part 2 done and then just obviously merge them both together. Unfortunately that never happened, so I thought rather than kind of uploading it, because while I got most of the points I wanted to get across, it just wasn't completed, and I just thought, you know what, there's no point just uploading this one. But it has been a while, it has been a fair few minutes, and I apologise. I also apologise for the sound quality, because I am recording this as I'm on my way home from work as well. But I kind of just want to jump on here and just talk about a few things, get them out of my chest, give you some updates obviously on where I am in terms of myself coming over to watch the Revolution game, obviously my thoughts and opinions, obviously the Revolution's performances and how we kind of going forward. Now obviously the time of recording, we have just come off the back of a 2-1 victory over Sporting Kansas, which was underwhelming, I think was probably the word. And if I'm being honest, that's kind of how I feel for most of the Revolution's performances. And I've touched on this point a fair few times now, and I think it still rings very, very true that this was kind of, although I think the 2021 season we were actually putting in better performances, but there's a lot of reminiscences and coincidences and similarities to that season, because I remember plenty of times back then I was thinking, you know what, we're not really playing particularly well, but we're picking up 3 points. We're just grinding that 3 points out of a game. And while yes, it's not pretty sometimes, and when you look at the squad, you think that maybe they could be performing better, and they should be performing better. But at the end of the day, we can sit here and cry and moan about performances, but if we're still getting the 3 points, I think that is still a massive positive to take away. Now, while I say that, I am still very disappointed on a lot of aspects of the game that the Revolution is playing at the moment. And obviously, I know we can sit here and say we've got a fair amount of injuries at the moment, and we have. But that shouldn't really be used as an excuse, because a lot of teams can be put in similar situations, and that's the whole point of having a good squad. And I think while teams can sometimes hide behind or they'll mask a lot of their issues with we've had 6 or 7 key players out injured, while obviously that's going to have a detrimental effect on a lot of teams, you'd say, well, isn't that bad team management? Obviously I know injuries, sometimes you can't avoid them. In some cases I have got to question what's happening with the Revolution injuries, because a lot of them seem to sometimes be picked up in training. But you should be able to, I know it's a different example, but most teams in the Premier League, if you're going to have 5 or 6 players out injured, then you've got to have the depth there to be able to call upon the players, and then for them to know their role and how they fit into this squad, at the drop of a hat. So if Dwan Jones does go down injured in training, and we've just loaned out our potential backup left back to Tampa Bay Rowdies, then what's the logic behind that? Obviously I know you can't foresee that Dwan Jones might pick up an injury. Yes, we've signed a player to kind of bring in there, but when he's probably not maybe match fit, he's not kind of understanding of the game plan. For me, I think it was a little bit, well, it was a risk which nearly backfired on us, if I'm being brutally honest. But there's a lot of questions around things that are happening within the Revolution camp, and especially on the injury front. And whilst obviously I'm not overly pleased by any particular Revolution performance at the moment, I think we've been bitty, and there's a lot of things where we've rode our luck. I think, as I mentioned just at the top of the show, that them grinding out these results and getting them 3 points on the board it's huge. And if we can continue doing that, and then start building on the performances now, getting some players back in, hitting a run of form, and start actually setting the MLS alight and showing teams that, at the end of the day, we're top at the moment without really producing any good level of football. There's been moments of sparks here and there, but I wouldn't say you can sit and honestly say maybe Houston, possibly Houston, that any game we've really overly controlled and dictated the whole game and looked dominant in, and walked away with the 3 points. Which again, as I say, if we're already top at the moment on grinding out results alone, that's a positive within itself. And it's now, hopefully, we can start kicking on and showcasing to the teams that it's not luck. It's at the end of the day, we're here, and people should be scared of us. Now, talking about obviously the Revolution performance, especially as of recent, and obviously I'm not too sure where we at this moment in time where we stand on Dewan Jones. Obviously, we know the sad news of Henry Kessler out now for potentially 4 months before we see him suited and booted back up in a Revolution kit, which is a massive loss. And obviously my thoughts are with Henry, and I'm sure he'll come back a lot stronger and better from this. And in adversity sometimes it comes out a lot of positives from there. I'm sure Henry will have all the right support mechanisms around him to keep himself mentally in tune, and come back fighting when he's called upon again. And there's part of me now thinking that we've got Kessler out, which isn't ideal. Dewan, I'm not too sure where we lie at the time of recording this. I'm not too sure where we lie on the Dewan Jones situation. He could be back next game day, but it got me to thinking, and I started tinkering around. And I've got this good little app that I like to use sometimes when I'm and it might be something that I grow eventually with the content creation that I want to do when I just have time to create any content, because there's a lot of ideas I have in this head of mine, but unfortunately it's just a time that I just don't have to kind of get it out. Sometimes I work 2 jobs. It's just hard to get any free time to do anything. I also help Always Away Days as well, obviously part of the rebellion, so I'm also assisting them with a little bit of work at the moment. I also do some I work a second job, which is technically my own company, but I also I'm the assistant researcher for the New England Revolution for Football Manager as well. So I have lots of things going on, and obviously I could think maybe if I scale back on a few of them things, I could create the content that I want, but I enjoy a lot of things that I do. So, and obviously the 2 jobs things obviously just necessity at the moment. But yeah, there's a little app that I use that kind of when I look at how Revolution should, when I'm trying to kind of walk my way through how a game could pan out for the Revolution, it kind of just helps me understand how from a transitional play how the Revolution could better, well, not even just Revolution, just in general football talk, when you're kind of trying to showcase to somebody how you think something should work. And I was kind of playing around there and looking at what kind of maybe best suit. I know I've banged on around playing 3 or 5 at the back for a while now, and I'm a big advocate of it. But it kind of got me thinking when I seen the Tampa Bay Rowdies were playing. Obviously, it was Spalding kind of playing in that left wing back situation, and I looked at the kind of personnel we've got available to us, and one player that obviously I want to single out from the game, obviously against Sporting, was Emma Boateng, and I think he absolutely was the right player at the right time to come into that game, and he absolutely shredded. And I think without him on the pitch, I don't think we would have got that result that we did. I think if we'd have played a different formation and played a different way, I don't think we would have got the result that we did. It could have been a draw. It could have even been a loss. And not that I think we was ever massively under pressure at any for any extended periods of time. But even when they went down to 10 men, it still, that second half performance from a Revolution perspective was shocking, considering we had an extra man as well for periods of that. It should have just been nice and comfortable, but oh my god, it was far from that. But I'm just thinking personnel-wise and what we've got to say. I don't know where we are on the Dewan Jones thing. If it was just a one-game thing, or if he's back. If he's not fully fit, I was thinking, you know, with Kessler now, we could possibly play a back three of Andrew Farrell. I'm not really too sure where we'd go then. I think we'd go Romney in the middle, Farrell kind of on the right hand side, and then I'm not too sure who would play on that kind of left side. Christian Moncur I don't know, he didn't have a good game, but he didn't also have an overly bad game. It was kind of just a meh game for me. I'm not too sure where we are with Ben. Obviously he could slot in there. I think that would probably be the ideal one, but I'm not too sure. So I'd probably say a back line of Andrew, Dave and Ben, and then we'd play obviously Brandon Byers like a right wing back, but in a more kind of support role. And then on the left hand side, if we played Emma Boateng out as a kind of a more attacking wing back, so it kind of is a 4 at the back with Brandon Byers. And obviously you've got kind of Sweet playing as the kind of player that comes across when we're in a defensive transition. So when we're being caught on a counter attack, we've still kind of got that back 4. And then with Polster and, well, I'm not too sure, obviously maybe Blessing, but probably Noel Book in front of that as the screening pair. And then Emma would be kind of left more so as an attacking wing back rather than support. So Brandon would go forward when an option was available, but then we'd play Carlos kind of out a little bit kind of towards the right hand side. So he'd be kind of as an inverted winger. So he'd be cutting in from that right hand side, but he's starting position if he must. And I know how much Bruce loves talking formations, but from a starting position, Carlos would have that positional start as more of a kind of on the right hand side of a midfield 4. Sorry, of a midfield 3. So you'd have obviously Petro in goal. We'd have the back 3 of Andrew, Dave and Ben. We'd then have Brandon on the right hand side with Emma on the left hand side, and then in midfield we'd probably have Book and Polster and Carlos, with Polster and Noel Book as the kind of 2 defensive midfield pivots, and then we'd have Carlos kind of more on the right hand side. So he'd kind of be playing the 10 role, but his natural starting position would be out on the right, just so that Brandon's not kind of caught kind of out there too much, but still got the option. But he'd be more inverted, so he'd be kind of looking to cut inside. And I think why this would be kind of key is because while we've got Emma on the left hand side, obviously keeping very snug to the as more of a natural out and out winger, like keeping out wide and dragging players out and holding that position of play, while Carlos would start on the right hand side and drift inwards, it'd then hopefully bring a player in, or it'd also distract a player. So you'd either have the right back, their left back cutting in with Carlos to track them, or you'd have another player, one of their defensive midfielders, pulled out wide to kind of track Carlos's movement. And then that would create a bit of space in that middle there for a front 2 pairing of, I'm not really too sure where it'd lie. I'm not too sure where we are in terms of Bow and Wood, but you know, Veroni and Wood, or Veroni and Bow. If it was Veroni and Bow, I think you'd have Gustavo kind of playing in the slightly deeper role, and he'd be one kind of picking up them spaces in their pocket that's left. So from Carlos kind of having a more out wide right starting position. Not saying that he's going to be playing as a right midfielder or a right winger. You know, that'll be part of the game, but you know, that's just his natural starting position, and looking to kind of cut inside, especially starting from the right and cutting in on his left foot. I think that's absolutely deadly. If you give Carlos enough time and space on his left peg, he's gonna make you pay more times than not. But it's just a thought. And like I say, I've kind of run it through my head a few times, and you know, from a defensive transitional play, if we get caught, hopefully, you know, because Carlos is kind of there, it kind of keeps Brandon in a more defensive minded, so he's not bombing forward as much. So I think that's where we've been caught a lot of times with our 2 wing backs, because we play with a back 4, and Dewan and Brandon like to go forward so much that we do get caught sometimes, and you know, I think that's why it's key that we do have to have 2 in the pivot. But I think, you know, with having 2 in the pivot and 3 at the back, I think with they're in a better situation of being able to have players shift over. You know, you've got a kind of a natural defender in Matt Polster anyway, who can kind of cover in at any position along that back four. Really, with you know, I think he'd fit in quite well. But if you had Ben switching over to left back, Andrew kind of filling in at right back, and then kind of Polster dropping inside, maybe alongside Romney, or even filling in at right back if we're kind of caught there. And then you've still got Noel Buck there kind of sweeping as well. And obviously then when Brandon can get back and defend, and then Emma's got blistering pace, so I'm sure he can get back in it. There's plenty of times in the match on against Kansas that we saw Emma in defensive situations, and I think he's one of the players on the Revolution squad who never really shirks his defensive responsibilities. So I think kind of playing him as an attacking left wing back, I think it's worth giving it a go. It will depend, obviously, because the one might be back, but it's just something that was kind of going through my head as I was looking at the squad and seeing, like, okay, next game day, where do we lie? I'm not too sure what we've got in terms of availability of reports at the moment or anything like that. But yeah, I just thought I'd kind of get that, off my chest and let you know. And obviously, just most of the time, what I try to do is come up on here, talk a load of rubbish, and then just get some conversations going. Let you know my thoughts and opinion of where we lie, how we're doing. And I say overall, we can't. It's quite hard to sit here and be. I'm not being disillusional here, but at the end of the day, we're sitting top of the league and we're not performing particularly well as well. So it's, there's part of me which is ecstatic because my other club is not doing very well at all at the moment. We are struggling big time. We will not talk about that because it just will depress me. But then I see the Revolution sitting at the top of the tree, and when I look back over the games we've played, I just sit there and think, like, there's not been one game really, other than maybe Houston, where you can sit there and think, like, we deserve that 3 points, fully deserve that 3 points. Which kind of just, it's a real mixed emotions, because I'm happy of where we are, but there's just so much of me that's thinking, like, if we continue this reign of form, eventually, and we obviously did it happened against LAFC, when you come across a team with a lot of class on their day, we could quite easily be ripped apart and get a bashing. So we need to address these things now. We've got a lot of talent in this squad, and I like the fact that Esmir and Jack P are getting minutes. That's really pleasing to see. And obviously Vroni is starting to. I mean, I've kind of said it from the off. As much as he just reminds me so much of what we've seen from Adam, because I was a player, a person that was getting a little bit concerned of Adam's performances when he first came obviously over to the Revolution, and then it kind of just came good. Things started clicking in place, and it's not an easy league, and especially, and the thing is, so when you kind of watch, I talk to a lot of people around about the MLS, and obviously where it would sit alongside other, if you had an MLS club, where would they kind of sit, especially with inside the English tier system, all that kind of stuff. I get asked a lot about where for example the Revolution would sit in the English league system at the moment, and so on and so forth, and why some players do struggle. And I do think it's probably the hardest thing from a player coming from especially the Italian league. And I've mentioned this before when I always use Pirlo as a great example. As much as I love him, he's one of my, he's definitely inside my top 10, if not top 5 players of all time. But the Italian league, it's not, MLS to me is basketball. It's the basketball of football. It's really entertaining. It's very, very end to end. Teams are starting now to do some more patient build up, but it can be a very direct league. Pace is used a lot, and I think the reason why some players that come from especially the Italian league, where it is a lot more tactical and the pace is a lot slower, they struggle to kind of get into the right mindset and follow the speed of the game. And I think that's why we kind of notice that a little bit more with players that come from that league in particular. And I think that's what Vroni struggled with. It's not all of a sudden he's just become a bad soccer player. That's far from it. It's just that you have to give them time to kind of get in tune with the league, get in tune with a new team. You know, it's not like you just go into a different team in the league and you kind of know what to expect. There's a lot of different things to kind of come across here, and luckily, obviously, there's not a language barrier there, but you know, there's still things you can see he's learning, and also the players around him. We're starting to now understand how to better use him. You know, that the goal against, you know, Sporting was a prime example of Emma knew exactly what Veroni was doing. He knew that he was going to go out wide and then cut back inside, and he played the perfect ball into him, and you know, won the revolution. So while it's a work in progress, I think we're starting to now see the dividends coming from that, and we're starting to see what we can actually get out of Veroni. So yeah, apologies for any change in sound as well, guys. Yeah, I just need sometimes I just need to get things out. I just want to talk about the revolution a lot. It's just hard to find time. So now when I've got time, it's I just might try and get in where I can. So yeah, this isn't going to be an overly long episode. I just kind of wanted to get some stuff out there, and I just want to get your guys' views and opinions as well. Just in terms of, you know, so just over on Twitter, just let me know kind of what you kind of think at the moment. How are you? Obviously, it's hard to not say you're not pleased because we sit atop of the tree. But in terms of performances wise, you know, bar the Houston game, has there been any game where you've thought the Revolution, you know, are fully deserving of all 3 points? You know, for in terms of like key performances at the moment, in terms of players, I think obviously Noel Buck's done really, really well. But again, like I'm using that from the start of nothing, you know, not really knowing overly loads about the Noel Buck. Obviously, I watched him in a fair few games for the Revolution too. You know, we've still got Martial potentially to come back. I don't know obviously how he's going to come back into the fold, or even if he still fits in the fold. We've obviously still got Tommy Mack, Nacho to come back. So we've still got a lot of players to come back from injuries as well, and see where they slot into this whole roster and matchday squad things. But for me, I think we've got a lot of promising players still coming in the Revolution 2 camp as well. I think we've got, you know, a lot of talented and exciting players from that perspective. But for me, I just think that we've done okay. The thing for me that I want to see, I suppose, the biggest takeaway is that we need to now start seeing the performances to back up the results. And I want us to start putting markers down from now, and then to really just scare teams. I don't want people thinking that the Revolution could be a 3 points for them. I want them thinking, oh, you know, we're going to have to put in a performance and a half to get anything from this game. Because at the moment, I think, while, yes, they're probably sitting there looking at the Revolution, when they actually sit down and do their tactical analysis and breakdown of the Revolution's play, I reckon most management teams and coaching teams in the MLS probably do say, you know, they're there for the taking. Because at the moment, realistically, we are there for the taking. I don't think we've given any clubs anything other than mediocre performances. As I said, I'm not saying that as a whole there's been really good bright sparks of passages of play and points where we've looked, you know, like we should have done, like you know, like MLS Cup contenders. But over a 90-minute period, I don't know. There's so many lapses in concentration, and so many times when we should have done better, and so many occasions where I thought on another day with a better team, that could have been a completely switched round result. So I'm just hoping that the Revolution aren't, you know, I don't think they are for any moment, but I don't want them sitting there thinking, you know, we're top of the league, we're really comfortable at the moment, because we're not. That, you know, we should start, you know, switching things around and changing too much. And I know we're quite limited of what we can and can't do at the moment in terms of personnel wise. But I just don't want to take their foot off the gas, is what I'm trying to say here. If anything, we need to put more gas in the tank and actually go at it now, because we need the market to be set now. We need to start making teams scared. We can't just keep hoping that we're going to grind out these results and then, you know, because eventually it's just going to come to an end, and you know, and teams are going to start really figuring this out. But as I said right at the top, there's a lot of reminiscences from the. Because I think in the 2021 season, actually, I would say that in the 2021 season, there was more times where I thought that we deserved a lot from games, and sometimes we didn't even get it, but the stuff from the games. But there was a lot more times where I thought, we've fully deserved that. It's we've absolutely demolished the team there. And I can't really say that this season so far. And I know we're not massively far into it, but there's more than enough minutes in the tank now for players when you're starting to go, okay, when are we going to start kicking on? And it's really weird and stupid to think and even say sometimes, because how can I sit here as a fan of a club that's sitting top of the table and have any negatives to say? But at the end of the day, the players have got to be held accountable for their actions and their performances. And, other than the Houston game, and I suppose, sorry, I completely forgot the Montreal game as well. I think that one was, but again, beating Montreal at the moment, although saying that, I was going to say it should be a walk in the park for most teams. It didn't happen this weekend for, I can't remember who Montreal played. Was it DC? I can't remember who they played, but I know they picked up 3 points, which I was not expecting at all. I think other than those two games, and the Montreal one, I think that should have been a given because they've just been, they're having a torrid time and a half at the moment. Other than that, I don't think we've ever really put the scare into teams, and that's what I want to see. But say we're still very early on. It'd be nice to see some rotational pieces get minutes against, obviously, in the Cup. That I'm really looking forward to, obviously, that game. And then we've got a really, really tough game with, obviously, Cincinnati coming to Foxborough to kind of see out the end of the month as well. So that one's going to be really interesting. I think that's going to be a big, massive test. And this is the thing for me at the moment. LAFC came and they shown, when a team of good quality. And I think Cincinnati, we definitely can't say that lightly. But we need everyone to be, bring their A game. Hopefully, Dwan's back. He should be hopefully by then, and we're going to take that game as it comes. But yeah, that's a big one for me. I think that's going to be huge. After that, obviously, then we've got Toronto as we kind of stretch into May. We've got a few games on the road. Then obviously, I think it's Toronto, Miami, and then Philly. I think it is. We've got on the road before. Obviously, we return to Gillette Stadium at the back end of May as we take on Chicago Fire. And talking of the game against Chicago Fire, most of you will know, well, hopefully some of you will know, or at least one person will know, that on May the 27th, 2023, got to get it the right way around, because I know the way we do things over here is different to you. Like I would say 27th of May, where I believe you say May 27th, is when I will be at Gillette Stadium in attendance of the New England Revolution taking on Chicago Fire, which I really hope that we absolutely demolish them, like completely obliterate them off the park. Because they're not having the best of seasons. We're having... it's so hard to sit here and say we're having a okay season when we are top of the league. But that's all I kind of see it at the moment. I see it as an okay season. The stepping stones are kind of heading in the right direction. It's now, I feel like we're at a junction now, and it's now we need to start turning that corner into the path of looking towards that MLS Cup, and that's what I'm hoping to see. Especially as I said, we've got a huge game against Cincinnati coming up. So I will be hopefully attending the tailgate as well. I'm still in talks at the moment with Dave over at the Revolution, who's the director of fan and community engagement, about kind of a loose itinerary for kind of stuff for my time in Foxborough. But yeah, I will be. I'll confirm obviously a little bit closer to the time, but I will be in attendance of the tailgate. So if obviously anyone wants to come and say hello to me, then please do. It'd be obviously great to come and meet as many of you and say hello to as many of you as you can. I don't know at the moment. I won't get my game day tickets until a week before the game, so I don't know obviously where my seat placement is at the moment, so I don't know where I'll be sitting within the stadium. Hopefully it'll be a decent attendance. Obviously it's hopefully it'll be a well attended game, one because it's the Fire, two obviously because it'll be hopefully decent weather around that time of the year. But yeah, honestly I can't, like, literally you can't understand the amount of excitement that is just. I just want to get there. I honestly can't wait to kind of get over there and not only just to watch the game, but obviously just to meet some of you guys as well. Because I've been talking to some of you now for 3-4 years. And it's it's going to be crazy to come and actually see you guys and actually meet you all. So it's I'm so pumped. I just wish it would just hurry up now. But yeah, there we go, guys. I just want to go and get your thoughts and opinions of how you think the Revolution season is going so far. Are you happy? Where do you sit on the level of excitement for the Revolution season this season? As much as I always try and look on the positive side of things, there are some players' performances which are, I don't know, starting to. I just think if eventually, to me, it feels like we're going to go one of two ways at the moment. Either there's going to be a point, and I think the Cincinnati game is going to be that game. The Cincinnati game for me is the point in the season, and it's a pivotal point because I think this is where we showcase how this season defines itself and how we kind of go on from here. Because for me, if we go out and just annihilate Cincinnati, just even if it's only like 2-3 or even a 1-0, but just dominate the game and just showcase to the MLS that one, Foxborough is not a place to be messed with, and two, the New Revolution mean business. But there's part of me also in my head thinking, when you think back and look back over games and you analyse performances and individual performances and you look at the metrics data and all this kind of thing, and when you add all of that in together, there is still a slightly less prevalent, but it's still in my mind that a big team could turn up to Foxborough or turn up, it doesn't have to be at Foxborough. And there could be the unpicking of the Revolution, and it could be an absolute drubbing. Because there's so many times when we get caught napping, and it's those inconsistencies and rawness sometimes that just niggle away at me. I do try and shove them to the back of the mind as much as I can, but it's still there, and I think it needs to be voiced because I think the Cincinnati game for me is so. I know it's quite early on in the season, but I think it is where the marker should be set and laid down from that performance of what this Revolution team is about and what we're going to achieve this season. But it'd be interesting to kind of just get your thoughts on how you think the Revolution season's gone so far, who you've been impressed with. Do you think tactically we're getting it right? Roster wise, do you think we've got enough depth pieces now? Do you think we're in a good situation? I know we've got a lot of injuries, but so have the clubs, and some clubs are managing it better than others. So far for me, it's a good season. But that's all I'll say. Good. I don't think we've overly blown anyone away. We've not really controlled and demanded games. I suppose you could say the Montreal game, but is that impressive? And then maybe the Houston game as well. I think we was fairly in control for that one. But every other game, I think it's been nip or tuck and could have gone either way. And I think sometimes you got to be happy that we've took 3 points from a game, which I say a lot of that is reminiscent of that 2021 season. But I think I've rambled for far enough. I know it's quite hard sometimes to listen to one person talk for half an hour. So I do appreciate anyone that has got this far. But yeah, please be sure to get in contact with me over on Twitter. It's at NERevs UK. And as I always say, it's very weird that you've ever stumbled across this podcast if you've never actually come across my social media account on Twitter, because I don't know how you found this. But yeah, make sure you kind of get, just let me know. Just go over on Twitter and just jump in and just start giving me some of your opinions of how you think we are today. Where do you think it is? And again, I could be barking at the wrong tree, but for me, the game against Cincinnati is the turning point now for the Revolution and where this season could go. So I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you're all keeping safe. And honestly, I cannot wait to come and meet as many of you guys as I can on May the 27th, as the Revolution host Chicago Fire at Gillette Stadium. Let's go, baby.